How's it going, everybody? My name is Bo, and I'm a home theater and movie enthusiast. And in this video, I'm going to be installing an external amp into my AV rack, and also removing two external amps from the rack. I'll show that in a bit, but first I just want to say that for many years I've heard about going separates. That's the end game, and I was even considering it back in like 2002 when I still had my tower speakers in this room. And I actually was watching a Youth Man stream where he had Ryan Charpentier on, and I was asking questions about amps and speakers. And actually, since then, I've bought a good amount of products from him. I bought speakers, I bought my projector, I bought the amp. I got a Buckeye amp. It's a Hypernex, I think it's pronounced. It's the 252. I don't remember the exact model. I think there's an NC in there somewhere. It says 150 watts by 4, but it's actually 90 watts RMS. I contacted Dylan from Buckeye. He said it's 90 watts RMS, 150 watts peak. I'm not thrilled by the slightly misleading giving the peak wattage. I don't love that, but you know, that's just a minor thing. But I did order it. It took about 7 weeks to show up. So that kind of sucked. But before I purchased it, I did ask questions. Ryan told me basically you really don't need any external amplification unless obviously you're going to go to a preamp, or your speakers are showing signs of clipping, or you're hearing heavy distortion, or stuff's cutting out. That's what he told me. Youth Man over the years has always talked about having that extra headroom, that extra horsepower. I'm not sure all the technical stuff. I just know my Yamaha is a very powerful receiver or amplifier. It delivers 145 watts by 2 RMS in stereo, and I'm not sure with other speakers active. I currently have my 7 bed layer speakers all running off the Yamaha, and then my height channels are running off 2 Niles external amps. They're just 2 by 50 watt amps. You can bridge them to be monoblock 300 watts, and honestly the 50 watts is kind of overkill for these speakers. Plus, it's 2 separate amps taking up 2 separate outlets in my rack, and it's like the least important speakers to have external amps to. So I decided to pull the trigger on the Buckeye. Also, right before I made the decision, I stumbled across a scientific review, I think it's called, of my Yamaha RX A3080, and it was pretty disheartening to read basically how poor he rated the power, not the actual power, but the cleanness of the power. It said there's a lot of noise in the signal at the higher volumes, and blamed the power supply for being insufficient. And it was kind of a wake-up call, because I just thought, yeah, this thing's a beast. I was honestly never super happy with my Focal speakers with music listening. I get a little bit of ear fatigue and stuff. So with all that put together, I was like, you know what? If this is putting out noise, that would explain why at higher volumes I feel like these Focals kind of don't sound great. But my expectations aren't some massive improvement. The other thing, I was considering buying an Anthem preamp back when I ordered the Buckeye. That was my plan. Now that the holiday season and the Anthem sale has ended, I didn't end up buying a processor. I bought this seating instead. So anyway, I'm going into this kind of skeptical. I don't really at this point feel like I need an external amp, but my plan is to run the LCR. My Yamaha has XLR outputs for the left and right speaker, and then I have a RCA to XLR cable for the center channel, and then I'm going to put the height channels and hook them into the AV receiver. So I'm going to have 8 speakers, my side surrounds, my rear surrounds, my front and rear heights. But I did do some SBL calculation. I might put a link to the website. It's in metric or meters, so you have to do conversion. You put in the distance from the speaker, the sensitivity, and it tells you what watts or it tells you when you type in different watts, it tells you what decibel that can hit at your listening position. It was pretty eye-opening. So my front LCR speakers definitely need the most watts, like 150 watts to hit 100 decibels. My side, rear, and height channels to hit 105 decibels, according to this calculator, range from about 12 watts to 50 watts. So my thought is have those 8 speakers running off the Yamaha, really not needing that much power, and then free up my LCR. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take the camera. I'm going to go in there, show you what I've done. I've already kind of moved the rack out, took the side panels off, and we'll get it installed, show you the cabling, show you the wiring, and then get it set up, get it level matched, listen to some music, and come back and let you know. So with that, let's get to it. All right, so here is the AV rack. I've already pulled it out, took the sides off, side and front. I got to take the back. Got the Buckeye Amp there, and hopefully this isn't too time consuming, but I'm going to remove the 2 Niles amps and the RCA cables, and then take the speaker wire connections and hook them into the AVR, and then remove the LCR speaker wire. I don't know if it's gonna be long enough to get up there, so I might have to, that's why I have the speaker wire, I might have to solder on some extensions, possibly not. But anyway, then I got the XLR cables for the LR, and then an XLR to RCA for the center channel, and then just route the power cable and turn it on and level match and stuff and get that figured out. I have both the Niles amps removed and cleaned, and then I took the cables and tied them up nice, and I haven't put the Buckeye in, but I did route the height channel speaker wire. I didn't have to cut them, they weren't too long, actually they were just long enough. Unhooked the LCR. Now if I wanted to be lazy, I could just cut the banana plugs off and solder on an extra couple feet, but these are already have a solder joint somewhere up in here, so I'm going to undo my cable wraps and find out where the other solder joint is. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to add on the appropriate length. So shouldn't take too much to get the amp in place, but gotta route and hook up the XLR cables and the power cable, and yeah, we'll come back after that. And of course, hit a little snag. So I paid $300 extra for a rack mount option, and the damn screws on the bottom of the Buckeye are hitting this spacer, vented spacer. So I'm gonna have to mark them, and I'm gonna have to pull it out. I'm gonna have to drill holes so that allow for clearance. I mean, that's kind of bullshit. If you're gonna make a rack mounted case, you should make it work with racks. Let's see if I can see in there. Anyway, I'll go do that and come back when it's all done. All right, so here is after I cut out the holes. I mean, I painted it black, so it looks all right, but yeah, I didn't get the cleanest cuts, but I already test fit, and it does the trick. So we'll get it in place, get the amp fully secure, and then get the cables, everything hooked up. So we'll come back when it's done, or when I run into another problem. So my cutouts worked, and the amp is mounted. Go around to the back. I got the XLR cables routed, and yeah, it went pretty smooth at that point. I got just the right length cable. And then as you can see here, I open up this nylon wrap and found the connection points where I did the soldering to the extensions. So I'm gonna get these cut and then get the right length that will take me, route it up nicely and to the back of the amp. So once that's all done, I'll be able to power it up and get the levels set and just see how she sounds. Okay, so got the new wires soldered in. I left one of them so you could see it's a solder on shrink wrap in one with actual solder. I got the speaker wires routed. Nothing fancy. You never see back here, so I'm not worried. Like those OCD guys do those meticulous wiring, cable management inside their racks, but I'm gonna turn it on, test it before I wrap up and back into the cable sleeve and stuff. So we'll see how that goes right now. All right, I'm gonna hit the power switch on the amp. All right, no light. That's because it's set to trigger. Let's put on. All right, comes right on. Turn the volume down. I have to configure the Yamaha to. I had it set for my height channels were hooked up by separate amps. All right, so I'm back in the theater room, and it's been 2 weeks since that last clip. I now have the AV rack all put back together. Here's a little shot of that. I will say it's definitely a visual downgrade over those two Niles amps. Those just had a really nice look to them. The power button in the middle that was lit with the LED, and just like the design, the finish is a lot higher than the Buckeye, and then the Buckeye you can see the spot welds, and then it just has a generic, textured powder coat to it, slightly shiny. That's a downgrade, but it's not. It's really not that big a deal. It's just worth noting. But before I go into my impressions, I do want to say that rewatching my intro, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't articulate just how skeptical I was at that point of even needing a separate amp, and for my setup specifically. And I just, really only ordered it because of I thought I was getting the Anthem preamp, like the AVM 70, and I just wanted to get that first and get it out of the way. But because it didn't show up, and I decided to buy this Valencia seating, I almost tried to cancel the Buckeye. I mean, I asked Ryan, if there was any progress update, and I looked up the return policy. I was like, you know what? Eventually, I'm going to have a preamp, so let's just get the amp, get it out of the way. And I wasn't thinking at all about any type of improvement to the sound. I really was expecting nothing. And in all honesty, with 2-channel music, I was kind of expecting a downgrade because, according to Dylan at Buckeye, the amp is rated for 90 watts RMS, 150 watts peak, and the Yamaha has been rated and tested to deliver over 145 watts RMS into 8 ohms with 2 channels driven. So I was like, man, music's going to probably suffer, but for movies, it's just going to have more available power for the LCR. So I just figured, why not? So long story short, I was very skeptical, and at the same time, I added a near field sub to my setup, and I was more focused on that, to be honest. I wasn't really I had zero thoughts about the Buckeye actually making an improvement. So did it? We'll find out. First, I just want to cover a few of the cons. I already talked about one. Just visually, it's not great. Seeing the spot welds in the front. Having to drill my nice, like, heavy duty vented 2U spacer, like, that's some thick steel. That was very disappointing. I should email Dylan and say, you know what, you got this rack mount case. It's an extra $300, and these screws are way too close to the front for most like shelf spacers for AV rack. Yeah, that's probably the biggest negative. Another issue, I don't think it's related to the Buckeye. My center channel on my AVR just has RCA out, so I have a RCA to XLR cable. I'm getting a very soft popping sound anytime I select something in a menu, whether it's Apple TV, Zdo Player, my AVR's menu, or when I pause a movie, when I skip chapters, or when the movie starts. It's very soft. It's not bad at all. I did some troubleshooting. I tried different channels in the Buckeye Amp. I hooked different speakers up to the amp, and the popping sound followed the speaker. I did not try a different pre-out though, so I should have tried the rear surround pre-out, because I had a thought about using my rear surrounds hooked up to the amp. That way I'm using all 4 channels, and then put the center channel back to the AVR. I still consider that. I just didn't test it yet. That's really the cons. I can't think of anything else. So pros, it makes no noise, which I didn't think it would. I had it running for 2 hours. It's barely warm, so it's not getting hot. Class D amps, I don't know exactly if they're known for getting hot or not, but didn't get hot at all. Kicks on immediately. It has the soft power on feature, so you don't get a really loud, aggressive sound of when it kicks on. Shuts off immediately when you turn the amp off, or when you turn the receiver off. So that's great. The other thing is, being a skeptic, being focused on my near field sub, which will be in the next video. I didn't realize at first what was happening, but so I was listening to music, because I wasn't expecting music to benefit from a near field sub, but it's a huge benefit. Again, spoilers for the next video. I'm listening to music, and I just kept turning the volume up louder and louder, and it just kept sounding great. And next thing I know, it's midnight, and I was like, man, I don't have my usual ear fatigue, but whatever. Another week or so later, I watched a lot of demos. I had a guy over, played him a bunch of demos, and I was like, man, I feel like I could turn this up louder. So I turned up some movies louder. I'm still trying to dial in the near field sub and the bass, but I'll talk about that in the next video. And I'm just like, I wonder why that is. And then I went back to music listening the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. I went over 2 hours, and my speaker setup's a little different for music. I go in to a second speaker pattern in my Yamaha, and I drop the level of all my speakers down 4, and then I bump the subwoofer trim up 3 to make a difference of 7, just to get as much bass out of music as possible. I had it that way before. I did the exact same thing again. I level matched with the same SPL meter, and I'm listening to music normally. -16, -15 is about all I could really feel comfortable with. I'd get a little ear fatigued, and certain music like rock music with heavy distorted guitars just never really sounded good. Like I said in the intro, my Vocal speakers just never sounded that great with music. And if this is placebo effect, I'll take it, but I don't think it is. I'm cranking up every type of music. I'm at -10 on the volume. Whether it's some acoustic stuff I would listen that loud before, but now I'm taking that to -7, -6. Listen to Breaking Benjamin at -10, and it's the best that album, those songs have ever sounded. I've never heard them sound as good. Yeah, the near field sub adds some nice bass kick, but just the quality of the sound after 2 hours of -10, every type of music I threw at it, whether it's pop, dance, kind of country, hard rock, it does not matter. Acoustic, full electric, everything sounded great. And I walked upstairs and I had no ear fatigue. I'm like, is it? So I messaged Ryan. I'm like, is this placebo effect, or could this be real? And he's like, well, there's a lot of factors, but I sent him the review of my receiver from that Science. I gotta look it up. I'll put it below what the actual name is. And that guy says that the higher volumes you go, the more noisier the signal gets, and rated it pretty low for its amp and blamed the power supply. I was like, well, that definitely could be cleaner sound. And then he pointed out that there's some graph or some test they do on speakers where at certain frequencies, even if it's like an 8 ohm speaker, like a 200 hertz, it might have to draw 4 ohms. I don't even know what the term is. Draw 4 ohms or hit 4 ohms. He said some speakers like hit like down to 1 ohm at certain frequencies and able to hit that frequency. He said that could be a thing. He couldn't find one for my specific speaker. And he's like, just your Buckeye's just delivering. And the Yamaha was just in over its head. It was running out of juice. And plus add to the noisy signal according to the test. I'm getting clean sound, and it's able to deliver even though it's technically a lower RMS. It's just able to deliver without even like sweating or like it's just, I'm using all the wrong terms because I don't want to get into the weeds. I don't want to learn all this stuff. I don't want to like become an engineer of speakers to be able to enjoy my home theater. So whatever it is, it's without a doubt like it's not just my imagination. Whatever, it's a real thing. Whatever the cause, whatever's making it sound better, sound cleaner, and me able to listen at louder volumes without ear fatigue, whatever it is, it's a huge upgrade. And I just can't believe it. Like, I just cannot believe it. I really want to just order an 8-channel amp and just get everything off the Yamaha, but I don't want to have a bunch of RCA to XLR cables and then have to swap those out for XLR to XLR cables when I get a preamp. But it's amazing. Like, it's truly amazing. I want to listen to music right now. Like, and watch my next video where I talk about what Near Field Sub did for music listening. But it's a real thing, and I wasn't expecting it, and I don't know what the actual reason is, but it's a nice upgrade, and I'm very happy, pleasantly surprised. And so I've been talking a lot. I wasn't expecting much really out of this video. I started recording a couple weeks ago, and it's made me a believer, at least in this situation. I can't say it's going to do the same for you, but for me, I'm very happy, and it was definitely an upgrade. And these Focal speakers they sound amazing now. Music, I think I said this earlier, I've never heard like Breaking Benjamin. It was like So Cold and like Diary of Jane. I've never heard those songs sound this good in my life ever on any system. So I'm just like, holy crap. So yeah, with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment. What's your experience with adding an amp? I've heard people tell me it made no difference. I've heard people say it made a huge difference. So be curious to hear you guys' thoughts and your stories. And so thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.